All right, guys, this is Pretty Pink Passionate. Welcome back to another podcast. I have a very special guest with me, and this is my first guest on the podcast here. And basically, we're just going to talk a little bit about like inspiration from youth, from our perspective on like life situations, Christ, and our walk with God. And I'm very fortunate to have this person in my life. I've known her forever, literally since we were like babies. So I'm really happy to introduce her. And here I have my good family friend, Alexis. We call her PJ.
Oh, yeah. Gosh. My name is Alexis Harris. I'm 23 years old and I live in Wilmington, Delaware. I just got married in May 2020, and I have a baby on the way, so that's exciting. And I don't know.
Great. Well, I'm really happy you were able to do this with your big belly. I know you probably want to be home kicking back with your feet up, but I'm really glad that you were able to do this. I'm really excited about this. Again, as this is my first guest, this is an amazing opportunity. As me being a Black African American woman having my own podcast, I'm really fortunate to have another Black African American woman. We're both in our 20s, y'all, so this is amazing to be able to have her as my first guest and just, talk some encouraging words of inspiration to all of you guys. All right, so we're going to get into the questions. Okay, so my first question is, what is something that you have learned from being a young married woman?
So all of the things that people tell you about being submitted to God and just learning yourself in God and being preparing yourself for your spouse is true. Like, if you can't submit yourself to God and follow God, when God sends you that person, it's going to be hard to really flow in that type of submission, because I had a hard time with it. In the beginning, when we were dating and stuff, I was like, well, I'm not doing that. And it wasn't even so much of him trying to control or anything, but it's just a level of submission that you have to your spouse. Right. And it's something that you definitely have to learn. And if you're young doing it, kudos to you, because sometimes it's not easy when you look at Instagram and you see, right, I'm independent, I do this and I do that. My independence hasn't changed, it's just my way of thinking has changed. And right, that's definitely something that when it comes to the media and stuff, you don't want to really listen to, because you'll be single for a while if the right one comes along.
That's true. That's spoken facts right there. And just for those that are like young listeners that maybe don't know what submission or submitting is, can you just like give us a little explanation on that for them?
Submission is more so when you step out of your feelings and what you want and what you think, and allow another person, or even most importantly, God, move in your life the way that they need to move.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's important, because if it'll be a lot of butting heads, even with God, we butt heads with God. Of course, it's not like you're sitting there arguing with a person, but a lot of stuff we hold up because we're not submitted to His word.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's because a lot of people, I think, especially young people our age, or just in general, even probably adults, still go through that, submitting phase and having to learn that. So that's really important that you're learning that at this stage, and y'all have only been married for like a couple months, so that's really good. And even before that, like you said, when you guys were dating, so that's awesome to hear that from you. All right, and the next one I have here is, how did you overcome those outside voices when it came to making decisions that impacted your life?
Whew. This is a big one, because as a couple, we had to overcome a lot of things, like before we got married. One thing, I'm not going to say if, you're feeling love to go run off and get married or anything like that, but when that right person comes along, you know who they are. And one thing you cannot allow is, again, social media, friends, family tell you you're too young to do anything. Right. Because at the end of the day, if this is what you want for your life, you have to walk in your shoes, and you have to make it comfortable for yourself. So one thing we had to really overcome was allowing people to live their life through us or for us, because it was like we're being single living with your parents still, it's like, okay, you know, my mom said I can't do that, okay, whatever. You get so used to it.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's time to get married and stuff, it's definitely a transition for your parents, for you.
Right.
It's a lot. So one thing that I can say, and I don't want to keep getting churchy on you guys, but praying helps. Because at the end of the day, if you're not sure if you're making the right decision, you can always pray and make sure that you're still in alignment with God.
Better preach, girl. Better preach. Well, yeah, I definitely agree, because I think especially in our generation, in today's day and age, I feel like we want to say like, oh, I don't want to listen to my friend, or I don't want to listen to my family. But at the end of the day, it's really hard. Like, we'll say it, but it's at the end of the day, it really is hard, because they do have their best, like, your best interest in heart, and that's where they're coming from. And sometimes, especially, I know me, like, I was like, I know what I'm doing. I don't need everybody else to, you know, tell me, oh, this is what you need to do. Oh, you're rushing this. Oh, you're doing this at a young age. I feel like if we walked around this world with putting a stamp on things like, oh, you have to be this age to do this. Yeah. Oh, you have to be this way to do this. I feel like we would never conquer or accomplish anything. So that's really important that y'all came together and y'all saw like, okay, we gotta block everybody out and we gotta do this for us. So that's really important, especially to have that mindset at a young age. That's really mature to have that. So that was awesome. My next one is, what situation can you remember going through where you were in a dark or isolated place, and how did you learn from it?
This is recent. I haven't really opened up to anyone about this yet. When I first got pregnant, of course, in the church, you know, not married yet and all of that. So it was a lot of controversy on what I should do, how I should do it, what I should do next, and don't do this and don't do that. And it kind of stirred me away from, even with my parents, it kind of stirred me away from everybody. So I kind of got I put myself into a shell, and I kind of fell into a small depression, because it was like, I know that I live for God. I know that, you know, I love God and I do my best. You know, nobody's perfect, but everybody was just like kind of coming at me for this one mistake that I made, and it ended up being a baby out of it. But it's like, I was trying to forgive myself, and it was hard to forgive myself because the people around me were so critical of what I did. Yeah. So it kind of made me shut down. But one thing I want to say is, like, it's okay to mess up. It's not that big of a deal to mess up. But what you can't do is stay in your mess up. So once we messed up, we had to move forward, and we had to do what was right for our lives and for our relationship with God. And it was times where I was like so down, I couldn't pray for myself, I couldn't do it. And that's why it's so important to have people around you, friends and family, that are going to pray for you and that are going to lift you up. Because it took for my best friend and my now husband to pray for me, because I couldn't pray for myself. And if I didn't have those type of people in my life, then I probably still would be in that dark place. So it's definitely important to be surrounded by those type of people that will always lift you up no matter what, because sometimes the people that you think is going to lift you up isn't always there.
That's true.
So you always have to have that one solid person that's going to be like, I got you, we're going to get through this. And if it wasn't for them, I probably would still be in the same dark place. So it was definitely, I think that was like life-changing for me. Yeah, wow, that's really powerful. Like, just how you mentioned, like, don't stay in your mess up. I think in my first podcast, in my episode, I talked about not like dwelling in the past, not staying in that past, because once you do stay in that past, you're not gonna get to where you need to go. Like, if you stay in that like dark place or that isolated place, you could be missing a whole nother blessing on the other side of the table, or whatever you're going through, or inspiring or helping others, and you don't even know it because you're just stuck in that place. And it is hard, because I've been there myself recently as well. It is hard to come out of that place, because you're like, oh, why does this happen to me? And that is definitely a hard, for me, I was always questioning, why me, God? Why this? Why that? But now I turn to it and I'm like, thank you, God, because if I didn't go through that, then I wouldn't be where I am today, and where I would be in the future, and inspiring others and blessing others, and having this type of confidence to have this podcast and talk to you guys, talk to youth.
little kids, older kids, adults, and then seniors. So I think this is a blessing to have this platform to be able to speak to you guys and then have you come on here and speak, because sometimes we don't talk about those dark places. We don't talk about depression, and depression is real, y'all. Depression is very real. I've experienced it a little bit myself recently as well, and it is something that we shy away from talking about because we don't know how people are going to perceive it, or we don't know what we should say, what we shouldn't say. Like, there's a whole bunch of things that goes through our head. But at the end of the day, you have to say, okay, this happened, but it doesn't define me. So I think that is really powerful that you said that, you know, that it was a mess up. We got over it, and then we move forward, and it now is helping you guys in your relationship and your walk with Christ. And it's going to inspire many others that may go through the same situation to come out and be like, okay, well, they went through something similar, so if they got through it and they're where they are and they're still standing, then I can too get through the same situation or another situation that has inspired me from listening to them.
Yeah, just to add to that, even the reason why I even said it just now was because when I actually started posting pictures while I was pregnant and stuff, I had somebody DM me and was like, how are you so confident being in the church and you're pregnant and you're young and this and that? She was like, when I was pregnant, I couldn't do it, and I couldn't go through it, so, you know, just give me some pointers and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, I can't be quiet. Like, because me being quiet is hindering somebody else's growth.
Yes. So
anytime you guys go through anything, it's okay to speak up, because somebody else is going through it that's going to need to hear your voice.
Yes. She's hit spot on right now. It is crazy, because I'm going to give y'all a little backstory before I ask the next question. The reason why I wanted her to be my first guest is because, like I said, I myself was going through something recently, and still am in certain ways. And I feel like she doesn't know, like, hands, like, to, like, point A, point B, point C, everything that I'm going through. But seeing the things that she's posted and the way she just spoke to me, it was like God just came through her in that message to me. And I was like, yo, girl, you is all in my story, all in my life right now, and you don't even know it. And that's the crazy thing about our relationship is, like, we don't text every day, and we don't have to text every day, but we have that bond and that connection that when we do talk, it's something powerful. Yeah, and that's a true friendship to me. I don't know about y'all, but that's a true friendship to me, that you don't have to speak to somebody every day to be able to have that type of connection, because, like I said, she doesn't know what I was going through or what I am going through, but just to have those little few words of encouragement, that was a blessing to me. And I was like, wow, somebody needs to hear this, because, like you said, this is going to bless somebody else and inspire somebody else at the end of the day. So you can't stay in that isolated, dark place. You gotta, like I said in my first podcast, you gotta drag yourself out of that and, you know, move forward. There's more to life than what you're going through. Yeah. At the end of the day. All right. Next one is, when did your own personal journey start with Christ?
Own personal journey.
Not because your mama dragged you to church, or your grandmama, because y'all know, like, with us being young and being in the church with our parents, it's like, oh, you're going to church because your mom was going to church, your dad is the pastor. Nah.
I think my own personal journey, it was after high school. I was trying, but it was nothing serious. But 2018, it's, again, I don't whatever, I'm gonna say it anyway. 2018, there was this conference called the Millennials Gathering, and I went to that, like, to just dance. I was supposed to just be praise dancing, you know, just, you know, because like I said, my journey with Christ was, like, kind of iffy, but but I love to dance. So I went there to go praise dance, and I seen it was like so many young people my age genuinely worshiping Christ, and, like, they're at church because they wanted to be. It was not like an adult in sight. They were all young people actually, like, ready for church and enjoying church. So that really inspired me, and I was like, well, if they can do it, you know, I have to be able to do it too. Right. So that's something that really, like, got me started, and that's when I really, like, started taking God serious for myself. And that's an amazing, it's every year in October, the Millennials Gather. It's is something that is definitely something to be a part of.
Yeah. And going off of that, I just recently started listening to Sadie Robertson Huff, and I looked at one of her sermons, and I saw it literally was like a stadium full of just youth. And I'm like, wow. Like, and it's crazy because you don't really find a whole bunch of youth Christians or believers in Christ that are going to go out to something like that and sit around, because obviously in the church and when we grew up, it was a whole bunch of older people. And so I think, especially with my walk, I've noticed, like, you know, I can't go off of my parents, or I can't go off of older people. Like, I want to be in a room full of youth, teenagers, young adults just like me, because that is something more powerful than you'll probably ever experience just going to a church with, like, adults or seniors. I just personally, that's from my perspective. I feel like it's just a different atmosphere, and it's a different connection on a different level. And
you can really, when you're in a service with other young people, you can really be yourself. Yes. You don't have to expect to do church like the old people, or do church like they say, or wear what they say and stuff. We were literally worshiping God in skinny jeans and, you know, t-shirts. Like, it didn't matter what we had on. We didn't have to have Sunday's best on to go and get that experience.
Right. Like God says, come as you are.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.